Hello and welcome to today's episode of the GOP Josh Show. My name is GOP Josh. I will be your host today. Today's episode is titled The Wall and Parmesan Cheese, and we're going to get to all of that here in just a minute. First, I want you guys to check out my brand new website. It's called gopjosh.com. It is the home for all things GOP Josh. You can find my opinion articles, links to my social medias, all that and more. gopjosh.com, gopjosh.com. So Biden is considering to finish, or Biden's staff, I should say, is considering finishing Trump's border wall to plug the gaps. This is an article from the Daily Wire. Biden administration considers restarting border wall construction to plug gaps amid Biden's border crisis. Biden administration is reportedly considering restarting construction of former President Donald Trump's wall along the U.S.-Mexico border as the administration struggles to maintain control of the worsening border crisis. Biden Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alexandria Mayorkas, I'm just going to say Secretary Mayorkas, said during a conversation with ICE employees last week that the administration was considering finishing gaps in the wall. Quote, "It is not a single answer to a single question. There are different projects that the chief of border control have presented and the acting commissioner of CBP, presented to me," Mayorkas said, according to the notes of the ICE session reviewed by the Washington Times. The president has communicated quite clearly his decision that the emergency that triggered the devotion of the DoD funds to the construction of the border wall is ended. That leaves room to make decisions as part of the administration, in particular areas of the wall, in particular areas of the wall that need renovation, particular projects that need to be finished. Who would have known that a wall would work? I know who would have known. President Donald J. Trump. He advocated for a wall for over 5 years on the campaign and while he was serving. Congress couldn't give him the funds to do it, so we had to declare an emergency in order to do it. And now they're just trying to finish it. If you wanted to finish it, you should have never stopped it when you got into office. We heard these people coming here saying, "I only came here because Joe Biden is now in office." The border crisis is going to get worse. The illegal immigration is going to get worse. The less money we spend at the border on things that actually work, not hotel rooms for these families. We need to spend the money on actually making sure that people can't come into our country illegally. And that includes with the wall. The Times said that Mayorkas specifically mentioned those particular projects included gaps, gates, and areas where the wall had been completed, but the technology had not been implemented. This is why we wanted 4 more years of Trump. This border crisis was completely and utterly avoidable. That's the only way to describe it. We could have easily avoided this border crisis had we just stuck with Trump for 4 more years, deal with the guy's annoying tweets. 4 more years of President Trump would have prevented this. 3 months of President Trump would have prevented this. But no, he tweeted mean things, so we weren't allowed to have him on as our president anymore, because Twitter is what determines if you're a good president or not nowadays. Twitter determines everything, and Twitter is ruining this right here, because this border crisis was preventable by not stopping the wall. But what did President Biden do at first? And actually, I have a clip about this where Jen Psaki just straight up lies. So I want to play that clip.
Quick one about the border. The DHS secretary is reportedly looking to finish some gaps in the southern border. How does that fit with President Biden's day one executive order?
Well, wall construction remains paused to the extent permitted by law.
It remains paused for the extent permitted by law. So you're saying it's not paused then? So why is he lying to everybody? He stopped the wall on day one, except for parts of it. So it's not completely stopped.
Has already been funded through congressional authorization and funding allocation. But as agencies develop for a plan, it's paused while agencies are developing a plan for the president.
She doesn't even know what she's saying, and I'm not judging anyone with a stutter. But she is representing the most powerful person in the world, the president. Well, she's probably actually representing Kamala Harris, or whoever's actually being the president of the United States right now. But she is representing the most powerful government in the world. She doesn't know what she's saying. She's straight up lying to the American people, claiming that the wall was stopped, but the wall's not stopped. But the wall was stopped, but the wall isn't stopped. A crisscrosser in the same sentence. I'm shocked she didn't have to circle back to this. But this border crisis was completely avoidable. 100% avoidable. Had we just stuck with President Trump for 3 more months, I'm not saying that we should have removed him from office, but I'm saying if President Trump would have had another 3 months, the wall would have been completed, this border crisis would have been prevented. Not to mention that a lot of illegal immigrants who came here from the southern border, or not from the southern border, sorry, from Mexico, claimed they came here, said they came here because President Biden was elected. You can't say that there's not a crisis when the crisis was caused by you. President Biden is the reason this crisis has been created. So I think he's right with continuing the wall construction. I think he needs to come out and say, hey, President Trump did this right. This is something that my predecessor, even if he doesn't want to call Trump by his name, but even my predecessor did this right. He started this wall. It was actually helping. I stopped the wall, mistakenly stopped the wall. But he's not going to do that because it's not considered a mistake to him. The safety of Americans is not considered a priority in his administration. It's not. That's just a fact, sadly. And so while I cool down a little bit from that tangent that I just went on, I want to play a clip. It was from The Right View with Laura Trump, and it is a clip that I missed the opportunity to play last week because I didn't make an episode. But I want to play it. I think I have like 3 minutes of clips, 2 minutes of clips, about that are clips about things that I wanted to know the answer to, and that Laura Trump gave us the answer to, including if we'll ever be able to go to the Trump rally again. So thank you, Laura Trump. It was a great interview. I'm sorry I wasn't able to talk about it last week, but I'm going to play the clips that I have clipped together right here, right now.
So I want to ask, because people ask me this too, will we ever be able to attend another Trump rally?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think so. In fact, we're thinking about doing one relatively soon just to let everybody know that there's hope in the future. Look, when you look at what's happening to our country with all of the ideas and things, when you look at these Democrat-run cities where the crime is up 300, 400, 500%, and they don't do anything about it, shootings, killings, murders, rapes, they're up to 200%, 250%. No, it's a shame. What's going on is just very sad. Democrat-run cities.
Yeah.
And now, if you have a Democrat-run country, what's going to happen? It's bad.
Well, that brings me to my final question for you. The beginning of this interview, I said, this is one thing everyone always asks me. The other question people all want to know, and I know you're not ready to answer it yet, but do we have hope that there's a possibility to see Donald Trump run again in 2024?
You do have hope. That I can tell you. You do have hope. We love our country. This country, we all owe a lot to our country, but now we have to help our country. And we were there. We were so good. What we did with Iran, what we did with China, we were all set to do some great things. And then you see what's going on right now. China treated our representatives last week in Alaska with such tremendous disrespect. They never talked to me that way. You look at North Korea. I got along with Kim Jong-un, and for 4 years we had no problem. I mean, I was told by President Obama and everybody else that North Korea was our biggest problem. We're going to end up in war with North Korea if that group stayed in. And for 4 years we had no problem with North Korea. Now all of a sudden you see the problem is starting again. No, we have a great country. We have to help our country.
So that was the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, talking about a couple different issues. If you didn't hear the clip for some reason, he was talking about how he wants to run again, and that we will be able to go to a Trump rally, and why he wants to run again, and why he doesn't want us to lose hope for the future of our country. And I have to agree with the president right there, or the former president right there. So I find something really ironic, and it's something that everyone else has covered, so I didn't think about talking about it. But MLB moved their All-Star game from Atlanta, Georgia, which was 51% African-American makeup, to Denver, Colorado, which is 10% African-American, because of their restrictive voting law that was passed after the 2020 election, where the fraudulent 2020 election. So according to a report, Major League Baseball is expected to announce that they have decided to relocate the All-Star game from Atlanta, Georgia to Denver, Colorado. This is an article from Breitbart. MLB removed the All-Star game from Atlanta after Georgia passed a series of voter reform aimed at safeguarding the integrity of their elections. MLB and other corporations claim that the new law acted as voter suppression measures by shortening early voting periods and requiring an ID. Putting the falseness of those claims aside for a moment, one would think that if MLB was so appalled by these measures, they would move their All-Star game to a place that has fewer voting restrictions, not more. However, that is not the case. Not only does the state of Colorado require proof of identification when casting a ballot to vote, it also has fewer early voting days than Georgia. I think Georgia has 17 and Colorado has 15 if I'm not mistaken. As for the claim that Georgia's voting laws represent some attempt at severely restricting people's ability to vote, even the Washington Post gave President Biden four Pinocchios for saying that the Georgia law changed Election Day voting hours. As the Breitbart's Joel Pollack reports, what I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick, it's sick. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work, Biden said during his one press conference he's had in his entire presidency. The following day, Biden claimed the law ended voting hours early, so working people can't cast their vote after their shift is over. However, Biden's assertions are not accurate. Election day hours in Georgia, which are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., have not changed. Those in line by 7 p.m. are permitted to cast their vote. Nothing in the new law changes those rules, the Washington Post reported. Georgia law did, however, make changes to early voting, but the Post explained that experts said the net effect was to expand opportunities to vote for most Georgians, not limit them. And the reason why people are so mad about that is that Georgia is trying to require ID to vote. Or they passed the bill. And they claim that they're restricting drop boxes, or they are trying to make it to where people of color can't vote because they can't get ID. But all these woke companies that are boycotting Georgia, like Delta's boycotting Georgia. I've been on a Delta flight before. I had to show ID. I was 8 or 9 at the time. I had to show some form of ID to prove that I was who I was. Now, I would usually not have ID. I did because I was planning on getting on a flight, but I would not usually have ID. I've not flown a lot, so I just pretty much had the ID for that flight. But I wouldn't have been allowed on that flight had I not gotten that ID. So that's not ageist, is it, Delta? I think that sounds pretty ageist that I have to have an ID when I'm 9 years old when I usually wouldn't have an ID because I don't have a driver's license. Come on, Delta. And people have actually said PayPal was also angry about this. So someone said, can I set up my PayPal account without my ID? They said, unfortunately, that's our method of verification. That's Georgia's voting method of verification too. These woke companies can't, what's the word I'm looking for? They can't practice what they preach. They are so against voter ID, but the same ones, if they have like flagship stores, are going to require vaccine passports. Okay. Let's throw out the voter ID idea for a second. Can we have voting passports? Can we just make people carry on a card that says they're able to vote? Oh wait, let's just make that easier. Let's make it their identification card. Woke companies, man. They get me upset. So Dr. Amy Acton, she's a Democrat. She was a former member of Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio's cabinet, and we're switching gears into the U.S. Senate seat in Ohio right now because I've been going off on tangents. This is something that I'm actually kind of happy about, not because I think that she would beat the Republican candidates, but just because I don't want to see her run. So Dr. Amy Acton, the former state health director whose entry into the U.S. Senate race in Ohio had been highly anticipated, said Tuesday she will not run. Acton, a Democrat, would have brought limited political experience to the race, but strong name recognition gained from appearing alongside Republican Governor Mike DeWine on widely watched virus briefings last year that aired daily online and television. Sorry about that. Acton, 55, did not address the reasons behind her decisions in the statement. Rather, she used it to urge Ohioans to play a role in the shape of the state and nation's future. Noting that much has been exposed and revealed by the coronavirus pandemic, the public health experts helped fight. Quote, yet as we cautiously reemerge this spring, we dare to hope that a new way is possible. The opportunity for repairing and reimaging is at hand, a rebirth for ourselves, our relationships, and for the institutions of our civil society. Acton's statements read, what happens next isn't the sole province of our elected officials, it's up to all of us. We must co-create an Ohio that ensures the enduring cultural values of kindness and justice for all. She had $5 million in the super PAC to run. 314 Action, a nonprofit political action committee, donated or pledged to spend $5 million to get her elected. So I think that Tim Ryan is going to be the Democrat that runs. If you don't know who Tim Ryan is, I'm not the biggest fan of him. Not just because he's a Democrat, but I'm just not a fan of him. He has over $2.4 million in the bank, I think. I think it's what I've heard of campaign funds. But Jane Timken raised pretty much that amount in 42 days, and she didn't have anything in the bank for her campaign. It was all Ohioan funded, as far as I'm aware. So I think we'll be fine. But I'm just kind of happy Amy Acton isn't going to run, because I'm not the biggest fan of Amy Acton, to be completely honest. I think that she overstepped in the coronavirus pandemic, in her response. She wasn't an elected official, and I think that she just took it as a way to bring power upon herself, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that. So I'm going to be right back after this quick break. Did you know that the GOP Josh Show is available wherever you get your podcasts? That includes Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and Stitcher, as well as iHeartRadio and YouTube. Just search the GOP Josh Show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow me on Instagram, which is GOP_Josh, and my Twitter is GOPJosh20. Now, back to the show. So, welcome back to the show. I've talked a lot about the state of Arkansas, especially in this governor race that hasn't really changed a lot, which is why I haven't covered anything about it. I have a Sarah Huckabee Sanders mug on the shelf behind me. I'm a big fan of the state of Arkansas. And that was just reaffirmed because Arkansas made it illegal for a physician. I'm going to say it the way CNN says it, and I'm going to say it the way it actually is. To prohibit physicians from providing gender-affirming treatment for trans people under age 18. The governor vetoed it, and the state legislature override the veto. 71-24. I don't know the makeup of that, but I know it's Republican controlled, and the Senate was 25-8 on that veto override. But I like this. I didn't say what it actually was. I'm sorry. What this bill is preventing children who have an actual mental illness from making it to where they can't have children in the future, or changing their body in ways that shouldn't be changed until you have the mental capacity to actually make those changes yourself. As a 14-year-old, I don't think I would want to be in the decision that would change. I wouldn't want to make a decision that will change my body for the next 60, 70 years, however much longer I live. These are experimental drugs that people were letting their children use. The state of Arkansas, in every right, blocked that. Thank you, the state of Arkansas, for protecting children my age from decisions they will regret later in life that are not reversible. So that was just, I just wanted to comment on that real quick. But I want to talk about Biden's infrastructure plan. Because he said, how much is this? I'm trying to see. I'm reading a New York Times article. $2 trillion of money we don't have. That goes into $174 billion of electric vehicle incentives. Now, I tweeted this, but I can think of a very good electric vehicle incentive. Not paying the $4 a gallon for gas that it's charging. That is being charged right now. Thanks to, I'm not going to blame President Biden. There's no evidence that it was President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. $115 million supposedly for roads and bridges, public transit, passenger and freight railways. Disaster resilience is $50 million. Passenger freight railways was $80 million. Public transit was $85 million. Airports is $25 million. Other. There's just $35 billion of other that's not classified in this article. $100 million of clean energy, which I understand slightly, but $100 million. $10 million for federal buildings. Is it just going to prevent people from running into the police officers in the front of the Capitol? I didn't cover that either. But some of this stuff, I don't know how it could be considered, like climate technology. How is that considered infrastructure? Is whatever the Democrats want to do to our country infrastructure, and they can just disguise it as infrastructure to get the bill passed and get the money to do that, to fund their plans by calling it infrastructure in these bills that are too long for any person to read. I don't know how long this bill is. I'm reading an article about it rather than the actual bill, because I don't think the bill's actually been proposed. But the same thing happened with the omnibus bill, which people voted for. I don't understand how representatives or senators voted for a bill they didn't actually read, and it passed. But I don't know. I don't know why there would be senators or representatives who took a bill that they haven't read. There's no way they read that. I think it was 9,000 pages. I don't remember exactly. Took that bill they didn't read and voted for it and just gave them the money. Who knows what was in that? What if it was $100 billion for tax-funder paid abortions? Or taxpayer-funded abortions? Sorry. When I get agitated, I switch up my words a little bit occasionally. But there could have very well been $35 billion in there that goes to Hunter Biden's old energy company. You don't know, and I'm only bringing that up because that's our next topic. You don't know what was in that bill. You weren't able to read that bill enough. And I know that I'm going off on a tangent on things that were very long ago, but it's just the state of our politics. They're voting for anything that can spend taxpayer money. And I believe it's absolutely outrageous. So I want to start with a video clip. And like with the Trump clip, this is a bunch of clips that I have stitched together just because I want this is important parts of an interview that I watched, that I suffered through, I should say. But these are pretty important clips because this is the President of the United States' son. It's about 3 minutes. So yeah, let's watch the clip.
But Hunter, who was kicked out of the Navy Reserve after failing a drug test, grappled with substance abuse for years. And after Bo died of brain cancer in 2015, Hunter says he was binge drinking vodka so heavily that his father intervened.
So I want to pause it. This is the Vice President of the United States' son at the time, binge drinking vodka toward the president. Well, I'll let you hear it. Or the Vice President snuck away from his Secret Service to see his son. If he had to sneak away from Secret Service, that is not the environment a Vice President should be in. Which means it's not a good environment.
Came to my apartment one time, and this is when he was still in office as Vice President. And so he kind of ditched his Secret Service, figured out a way to get over to the house. And I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Honey, what are you doing?" I said, "Dad, I'm fine." He said, "You're not fine."
You would wake up some mornings, I shouldn't even say some mornings because you slept for like 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And be looking for crack and just smoke whatever was there?
Yeah, I spent more time on my hands and knees picking through rugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone.
I'm just going to pause it right there, and I'm going to finish the clip. But
anyone that you know, I'm sure, Tracy.
Because there'd be crumbs mixed in, and
yeah,
you just...
The President of the United States' son, everybody, smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone you know. That should be on a t-shirt. That should be like Hunter Biden, he's releasing a book. I don't know who's going to read that book. I might read it just for the laugh. That should be like a merchandise pack where you can buy like the book and the t-shirt that says, "I've smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone that you know." That would be a genuinely hilarious t-shirt. It doesn't sound like it's the president's son. I want to finish off this clip, but it doesn't sound like that would be the president's son.
In 2014, the younger Biden took a job on the board of a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma Holdings, at a time when his father, who was then vice president, had an active role in U.S. policy toward Ukraine. It raised eyebrows at the time, but by the 2020 elections, Hunter Biden was the center of a political firestorm.
Looking back, did you make a mistake taking a spot on that board?
No, I don't think I made a mistake in taking the spot on the board. I think I made a mistake in terms of underestimating the way in which it would be used against me. And
But you must.
I mean, yeah, if your father is the one that is having pretty much all of the relationships with Ukraine, it's going to look very, very bad against you.
Seen the optics. Even back then, you must have, I mean, how could you not have foreseen that this was going to look bad?
because I really didn't. I'm being as
This interview is such a softball. Like, they're bringing up important questions, but this lady is walking him through answering them.
as with you as I possibly can. All I know is that not one investigative body, not one serious journalist has ever come to the conclusion that I did anything wrong or that my father did anything wrong.
I don't think that's correct. I remember the New York Post laptop. Oh, wait. It's like right here, if I remember right.
But the rumors lived
Yep.
on. In October 2020, a New York Post article said that emails purportedly showing shady dealings in Ukraine by Hunter Biden were found on a laptop computer.
Reportedly, one of his business partners came out and spoke about it. Reportedly.
He supposedly left in a Delaware repair shop in 2019. The details were sketchy at best. And last month, a declassified intelligence report said that before the election, the Russians had launched a smear
You can claim,
campaign against Joe Biden.
you can complain, you can say it was a smear campaign all you want, but you can't say those pictures were fake. What was in that laptop, whether it was his laptop, whether he was hacked, you can't say that stuff was fake. You can't say those files were faked. You just can't.
And his family.
It does not specifically talk about your laptop.
Yeah.
Was that your laptop?
For real, I don't know.
I know, but you
my
know
point
that's
is,
this
I
is
really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is.
You
That's
don't
the
know
truthful
yes
answer.
or no if the laptop
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So
whether or
could
not.
have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
And
don't
you
need the
didn't
laptop.
drop off a laptop to
No.
be repaired
No.
in Delaware?
Not
No.
that I remember at all. At all.
That's the most important part of that quote. Not that I remember. What do you mean? I think it would be very evident. I think it was 2 years that the repair shop had the laptop, either 2 months or 2 years, either way. It would be very obvious if I had a laptop and then just 2 years later, or within the 2 years, you weren't able to find it. Where would you go? I mean, if you didn't remember that you went to a repair shop, maybe not the repair shop, but this is the President of the United States' son, everybody. If I remember right, he said, the President of the United States said that this is the smartest person he knows. I don't remember if that's the exact quote or not. But that's the smartest person he knows. Really? Really, President Biden? That doesn't seem very smart to me. So I want to finish off this episode talking about something kind of good news from the Biden administration, is that every adult will be eligible to be vaccinated. That's his exact quote from tweet, by April 19th. Now, that's really funny, and I'm shocked that CNN hasn't taken this article down yet. Trump says every American can get a coronavirus vaccine by April, but health experts say that's not likely. This was September 18th, 2020. When are the liberals, when are the leftists going to admit that they don't know what they're talking about? Or these fact checkers or these experts? These experts have been wrong for 12 months now with no repercussions whatsoever. I want to read a portion of this article. President Donald Trump claimed Friday there will be enough coronavirus vaccines available for every American by April. This is April 2021. A claim that doesn't match any timeline given by federal government health agencies, private researchers, or even the companies making the vaccines. But Trump and one of his top advisors said they were confident that a vaccine will be approved, manufactured, and ready for distribution to all by April. As soon as the vaccine is approved by the administration, we'll deliver it to the American people immediately, Trump said at a White House news briefing on Friday. Distribution will begin 24 hours after notice. We'll have manufactured at least 100 million vaccine doses before the end of the year, and likely much more than that, he said. Millions of doses will be available every month, and we expect enough vaccines for everyone by April. The timeline was off 2 weeks. President Trump was off 2 weeks. Yet he was wrong. He was such a liar. This is so far out claims. He's building up false hope. Biden is saying the exact same thing. You can't tell me that President Trump didn't know what he was talking about with the COVID vaccine, because he literally said it. When was this article? September 18th of 2020. He said this however many months ago, that everyone will be able to get a vaccine by April. When he says it, it's a lie. This is misinformation. Biden says the exact same thing using a vaccine that Trump helped create, that Trump funded, pretty much. Biden, you're a savior. Thank you for the vaccines. Without Trump, we wouldn't have a vaccine yet. Without Trump, we wouldn't have a vaccine yet. So before my blood pressure goes to like 200 over 100, whatever blood pressure is, I think I'm going to end the episode here. That's about all I had on my notes anyway. Thank you so very much for checking out today's episode of the GOP Josh Show. If you haven't already, go to gopjosh.com, read my latest opinion article about Ron DeSantis and the future of the Republican Party. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can go to gopjosh.com/contact, and I will try to answer those the best I can. My Twitter is gopjosh20. My Instagram is gop_Josh. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful week.